Sorry, everyone. Welcome back. Our next session is Grow with Google in New Jersey, and we are being joined by Chelsea Coleman, Director of Bogota Public Library, Deena Caswell, Supervisor of Outreach and Diversity at the Cherry Hill Public Library, and Nicky, Rigg, and Justine, Benisch at Grow with Google. I had to make it consistent, but I had difficulty with your last name through both. Okay, so I'm going to let each one of you introduce yourselves and your role in your library, and then we will get into our questions. So Chelsea, we'll start with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea. I'm Director of Bogota Public Library. It is a very tiny library in Bergen County. It's tiny in size, square footage, budget, population of the town, everything. I am one of 2 librarians. We also have a youth services librarian and 6 support staff. So most of the adult programming, especially when it comes to presentations and digital literacy training, I do. So that's my role.
I'm Deena Caswell, Supervisor of Outreach and Diversity for the Cherry Hill Public Library. So Cherry Hill is a town of about 70,000. We are about 15 miles east of Philadelphia. I work really closely with Tierney Miller, our Supervisor of Reference and Adult Services, in coordinating computer classes and delivering reference and adult services. So for the Grow with Google program in particular, Tierney was the project lead, but I worked really closely with her on it. So I'm happy to talk about our experience.
And Nicky?
Yeah, my name's Nicky Rigg. I'm with Grow with Google on a community engagement team, and we can talk more about it, but Grow with Google is our company's initiative to create economic opportunities for all Americans. And I've been working on partnerships with libraries and Google for almost 5 years now, mainly with the American Library Association, and through which we've connected with libraries across the country.
Oh, Justine, you're muted.
Sorry, this is, we're going to be talking a little bit about the challenges of virtual trainings, and this is one of them, forgetting that you're on mute and forgetting to press record, so we're learning as we go. I'm Justine Benisch, also from the Grow with Google team. I am the team lead for something called the Grow with Google Partner Program, which I can describe a bit more at length, but a brief synopsis is we team up with nonprofit organizations across the United States to enable them to offer digital skills trainings to small businesses, job seekers, students, and educators. So libraries have been some of our most effective and wonderful partners to date, so we're happy to be here.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And for our audience, you may have heard about Grow with Google. You might participate as a partner currently. You may have received a Libraries Lead with Digital Skills grant from PLA. But no matter what your experience is with Grow with Google, this session is designed to educate you on what Grow with Google offers and allow us the opportunity to explore some library experiences. So I believe I have a slide with our questions just so you kind of know what's coming up. But the first question is for Justine and Nicky. Can you explain Grow with Google and provide some background on how Google became involved with libraries as drivers of workforce and economic development?
So Nicky, I'll let you handle this one.
Okay. So as I mentioned, Grow with Google is our company's initiative to create economic opportunity. And there's a couple different pieces that all came together to into our partnership with libraries. So as a company, Google started working on outreach with libraries. We have other programs with search and Google Books and things like that. But about 5 years ago when I joined, my background is in program evaluation and development. And so time and time again, in evaluating the effectiveness of programs, we found that it was really these place-based strategies that were deeply rooted in the community, that could be very responsive real time to community needs that were most effective. And I had a little bit of background in libraries. So coming into Google, I was focused specifically on computer science. And so I really wanted to integrate some of the computer science work that we were doing into libraries, because we knew that that is where, you know, the end user, being, you know, students from diverse backgrounds, would be, and the librarians would, and library staff would really know how to take the programs that we were creating and make them relevant to the local community. So we worked with ALA first on an initiative called Libraries Ready to Code, and just kind of realized that there was some momentum, there was some interest in partnering together to, you know, take some content that Google could create and really make it relevant to local communities. So simultaneously, Grow with Google started, and that's more adult skills focused on job seekers and small business, making sure that folks are digitally ready when they apply for jobs or want to launch their business online. And we wanted to take the content and the skills that we were creating to communities. And so we started just a pilot tour, and we started thinking, well, if we want to get people to come, let's pop up at an iconic location in a city. And in some of the cities we went to, those iconic locations were libraries. And we found that when we did these workshops at libraries, as Justine said, they were a lot more effective, and they had longer reach into the community. So we officially launched a 50-state tour, as we called it, at the end or at the beginning of last year, exclusively at libraries. So we started going state by state, finding library partners that were interested in working with us on having these digital skills workshops for communities. And then in order to put that content online for libraries and other nonprofit partners to continue to use the same trainings that we are giving at the library in partnership with the libraries, we put online, and Justine can talk more about that. And then those two programs, Grow with Google and our partnership with libraries, really then merged into the Libraries Lead with Digital Skills funding. So we started a program where when Grow with Google came to a library, popped up this one-day tour, then any library in the state could apply for funding to host their own digital skills workshop after that.
Okay, great. Justine, did you have anything to add to that?
Just one thing from the Growth Google Partner Program side. Nicky has been great to work with in terms of having a lot of experience working with libraries directly. The Grow with Google Partner Program, as I said, is a program available to nonprofits across the U.S. This includes libraries, and we have a lot of content on Google tools, many of them free, that job seekers and small businesses can use to be successful online, to be found online, to help them find a job, grow their careers, grow their businesses, etc. And through the tour, the 50-state tour that Nicky mentioned, we were able to get a lot of libraries onboarded into the program, and we found libraries to be some of our most effective partners, because you are all working with these individuals every day, and you have a sense of how they like to learn, what they're most interested in learning, and there's a strong appetite there for the content that we are producing to give you something to present to the individuals that you work with in your communities. So the Grow with Google Partner Program has been working pretty closely with a number of libraries, sort of since the beginning, but especially over the past year and a half since we've launched the library tour and these initiatives for libraries. So we're really happy to have a number of great library partners in the program.
Great.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the tour went to the Long Branch Public Library in New Jersey. I was not there, unfortunately, but I did get to meet Andrea at the ALA Midwinter Conference. And if I can embarrass you, you have an amazing advocate and a really great speaker. So it was a pleasure to meet you there.
Oh, thank you very much. And yes, I was going to mention that our event was December 4th. And that was also when and Lisa Kelly from Long Branch is joining us in today's summit as well. It was a wonderful event. And that was also when our window for the Libraries Lead with Digital Skills grant opened. It was open for a little bit over a month, I believe. And then Cherry Hill and Bogota were two of the libraries that received that funding. So that takes me into our next question for Chelsea and Deena. How did you first hear about Grow with Google and the library's Lead with Digital Skills grant opportunity? And how did you get involved, and what benefit do you think it would bring to the community?
I would say we heard it from you. I'm trying to think back. We became a partner last summer, I believe, and hosted our first workshops in the fall. But I think you were the one who sent it around. I think probably for the grant too, although I do recall seeing it in PLA magazine maybe. So thank you.
Yeah, we found out about it through the state library. My colleague Tierney was at the Long Branch event. And I will say, coming from Google and the way that we had heard about it, it was positioned perfectly for our library, that we are always looking for ways to add new courses and trainings for our job seekers and small business community. And directly in the language of the grant, it said, this is an easy application. There are minimum reporting requirements and you get funding. So I think for any public library, as we're providing these classes, it seemed like a really easy partnership to say, let's go after this money and let's get some new resources for our communities.
Yeah, I would agree. The application was very simple. I mean, you know, we're used to state and federal grants that are pages and pages and pages long. This is something that you can put together just based on your knowledge of your community and what you need. Almost off the top of your head, it was pretty simple.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because that was the intention.
Yes, and the window for that is closed. So unfortunately, the funding is no longer available at the moment.
Actually, I have a hot off the press update, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Because that was December, and as we know, the world looks a little bit different now. PLA and ALA have decided to reopen up the application nationally, specifically to support virtual events, or if your library just needs to do additional online resourcing or programming. Again, it's easy application, minimal requirements. You tell ALA, PLA what your library needs, and the funding amount has gone up as well. So we'll put the link up at the end.
Okay, awesome. But I will say that when I was in touch with people from other states about Grow with Google as it was going around, and I do know for a fact that in New Jersey, in other states, there were issues where there was a certain amount of money allotted and they didn't have enough applicants in some cases to award all of the grants. So those states were trying to figure out other ways to use the funds. New Jersey did not have that problem. We had many people, many libraries apply and get funding, and I believe we got some additional funding. So New Jersey, stepping up, and I just love the state so much and the response to these opportunities. So that's very exciting, and that there will be another opportunity, and I know that New Jersey libraries will definitely be applying. So thank you. And the next question, Deena, did you want to say anything else? I thought I saw. Okay, sorry. The next question is also for Chelsea and Deena, though. What are some of the challenges with using Grow with Google to reach job seekers and business owners in your community? And what are some of the ways that you've overcome those challenges, and which ones are you still figuring out? So I will say, I guess I should take a step back, that when you did apply for the funding, it was for the events to happen, the training to happen during a certain time period. So Chelsea, I believe you were able to get your events in, but Deena, can you let us know if your events actually happened? And maybe before you answer the question about the challenges, we should just take a step back, and can you describe what Grow with Google events you've had in your library so far, and how those were received? So let's start there. So what was the event and the program, and how was it received? And we'll start with you, Deena.
Okay, sure. So we had seen the application in that December, January phase when it was open to New Jersey. And then our plan had been to kind of run a series of events for small businesses, to utilize the applied digital skills to do a series focused on small business resources. We had envisioned and had applied with the idea that it would be running in May, which is small business month. And there was kind of a bobble when we got approval for the funding that the event had to be held within 60 days. And so there was some confusion on our side whether or not we knew that there was a different spotlight application, and what we had applied for, we were kind of scrambling a little bit to make sure that we were able to run an event within the parameters of the grant, which we were able to do. So we actually ran the Creating Your Business Profile on Google event on the last Saturday that our library was open before we decided to shut down in anticipation of COVID. So the challenges that we saw is that really, like, we had planned to still hold on to this small business series that I think that many libraries kind of got thrown into a state of confusion over what does our programming look like, what are things working on. So we were glad to at least get one event out and running. I was the librarian that taught and facilitated that class, and we had a great experience on the day. Definitely smaller turnout than we had expected, but I don't think that was based on the need of our community. The success of the Google tools, like, I think that it was just a lot of people that weren't necessarily looking to leave their house on that day for this class. So I think that there were a lot of outside things that came up that impacted us implementing this program, but I'm glad that I was able to see on the ground how that one course ran, because it really honestly made me a believer that the two people that we had coming out were so engaged in the class. It was such a great way for me to teach a course that I wasn't very knowledgeable about, to use those video resources and then to work with our students on a one-on-one basis, that it really, running the program really sold me on the value of these applied digital skills. And then looking at the way that the landscape looks now, it's just a great resource for libraries as we try to move more virtual, as we try to connect people with resources that we know that they want. And we know that small businesses are looking at, how do I get myself on Google Maps? How do I get my business hours here? What does a business plan look like? All of these resources that when we do things in person, and I hope as things move more virtually, we partner with UCEDC and LADA and other outside organizations, but to know that we have access to these virtual resources is going to be, I think, really positive for us as a library, and hopefully for other libraries in the state as well.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, having the resources, the fact that it's canned content that you're using, means that I could go put on a workshop next week and not have to do all the legwork of putting that workshop together. It's free for me, which is super important. And it kind of meets a lot of the needs we're focused on job seekers and small businesses, probably like you are as well. So we started doing some of the small business workshops last fall. We did Getting Your Business Online, I think was the title of one. Using data to grow your business. I might be getting these titles a little wrong. And then we've also done Digital Skills for Everyday Tasks, which was just open to any community member that wanted to join. Our grant was focused on job seekers, so we almost finished all of our programs, but of course we had to close the day of our last program. So we're hosting it today at 4 o'clock. We're going to try to do a virtual workshop and see how that goes. I'm hopeful that we'll get better attendance because it's virtual. For some reason, we've had struggles at our library bringing people in for digital literacy training, but I'm hopeful now that people are stuck at home and on their computers all day anyway, maybe we can get better attendance for it. But it's been really easy and helpful, definitely.
I think so. the funding program is run by ALA and PLA. Grow with Google just sponsors it. So every once in a while, they'll share some anonymized nuggets from the recaps that the funded libraries send them. And I think the highest praise I think I've ever gotten is somebody said, I could have done a similar type of demonstration, but it was really helpful time saver to have these videos and screenshots and examples already taken care of. And then the videos went into more detail than I could have. And every library that I've been to, every training that I've sat in on, it's, it's just exceptional because you all take such care and time to either pull experts together or craft these things. But if we can do something to save you time, and knowing that these resources are just there for you to use is, I think, one of the main points of our program.
Great. And so Chelsea and Deena, were there any other challenges? Obviously, COVID put in a whole slew of challenges, but was there anything else that kind of came up as you were implementing things, or have you kind of addressed that, do you feel?
I don't think anything major has come up. I think one overall challenge that we'll always have as public libraries is making sure that people understand the value of these Google applications and that we're not promoting Google, that we don't work for Google, that we're really doing it for their benefit. So I try to really emphasize that, especially when I'm promoting on social media, like, hey, I use all the Google stuff. It makes my life so much more efficient. It's about the resources, not about supporting Google. So I think it's really important that as libraries we're vocal about that. But that could be I could see people getting upset saying, it's a for-profit company, but thankfully nobody said anything yet.
Yeah, I agree with Chelsea. I think one of the things that made it such a natural fit for us is that we run such a diversity of computer classes and small business and job seeking classes that this was able to be positioned just as one tool out of many. That certainly using the Grow with Google tools or the Applied Digital Skills isn't the only way to do some of these tasks or to meet some of these goals. But in the same way that any of us look at it, here's just one thing in a portfolio of ways that you can grow your business, that you can use jobs. And so this, yes, will be focused on Google tools, but we might be offering a class next week or next month that approaches the problem differently. And I do think that Google has such strong brand recognition and has such great tools in place where, like I mentioned, if you're looking and saying, when I do a Google search for a local business, how do I get my business to pop up on the side of the screen with my hours? I think that these are a lot of questions that job seekers and small businesses are already asking themselves. And so it's smart for libraries to be able to address it and say, and we can help you. So we can help you address this. We can help you learn how to do this. But certainly, I don't think it's Google's intention or our library's intention to say, like, this is the only way for small business success. But it's nice to have it as tools available for everyone.
Exactly. And we as librarians have, and libraries as institutions, we have such, we're seen as trustworthy and as approachable, I think, because of how careful we tend to vet our resources and develop our partnerships. So, and as you said, at the same time, you have this Google recognition where I always see those kinds of things as the draw that gets people in the door. But then it's everything else about the library that encourages people to return and to stay. So I think you provide some really great perspective on that from your experiences. So Justine, my next question is specifically about COVID-19 and the effect on Grow with Google's content and delivery. But before I go into that, did you have anything else that you wanted to say at this point about Grow with Google and what is available as a partner, or how people should decide, or what information you can provide to help them decide if they should join?
Sure. First, I'd like to say, a big thank you to Chelsea and Deena. I had no way of knowing what anyone was going to say on this call ahead of time. And I wish that I could get the two of you to come and give presentations. We go to conferences across the country where we tell people about the partner program and the content that we have available. And you really, both of you, hit the nail right on the head, because Grow with Google is a segment of Google that I'm particularly proud to work for, because I'm telling you right now, we do not make any money for Google. We are the arm of Google that is trying to get information out to these really critical audiences that are going to help boost the economy across the United States. And we primarily focus in our content on products that are free or low cost. So Google My Business is one of the products that both of you said you have hosted trainings on, and that's a completely free tool that a lot of businesses may be aware of. Just from searching for a business on Google, you'll usually see the business listing pop up, but many businesses don't know that they're able to claim and control those listings themselves. So we'll get questions all the time like, oh, you work for Google, I have a small business, and they have my information wrong on Google. But really it is that they have not yet claimed their business listing. So they don't understand that it's something that they can do themselves. So it's these types of products that we really want to spread awareness about, and that libraries are so critical to getting this information out to the businesses, job seekers, et cetera, that they work with. So thank you so much for the very heartening and thorough description of using Grow with Google content. If anyone on this call is interested in becoming a Grow with Google partner, it's available to many types of nonprofits and all libraries. And we'll flash up a slide a little bit later on in the presentation, but the link to apply is grow.google/partners. And you'll find a little bit of a description of what the partner program is and a button to apply. And we'll just collect a little bit of information about the audiences that you work with and about your library. And then you'll gain access to what's known as the partner community, which is essentially an online resources hub that has every single one of our presentations, including speaker notes so that you can teach yourself how to present this material. And you'll gain access to digital one-sheeters that you can share. It used to be print out one-sheeters, but everybody's hosting things virtually now, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. But you'll gain access to all of these resources, as well as a direct line to our team to be able to ask questions about the content, about our products, et cetera. So this is something that we're really trying to make the nonprofits that we work with sort of experts on these free products themselves, because you are able to reach these grassroots communities a lot better than we could as a big company, or better than I could sitting in my office in New York City.
Great, and thank you, Nikki, for throwing the link up there. So, Justine, how has COVID-19 affected Grow with Google's content and delivery mechanisms? And what are you hearing from users, and how are you adapting to this ever-changing situation?
So I will tell you all that it's been a crazy couple of weeks, and I'm sure that all of you are experiencing, if not something similar, at least something that's equally as crazy. Google was actually one of the first companies to mandate a work from home order, just because, they have offices around the world. They're rather large offices. They wanted to make sure they were erring on the side of safety. And so after that happened, I was living in New York. New York is not necessarily the heart of Manhattan is not the best possible place to be right now. I have a 9-month-old son. We drove down to South Carolina, and that's where I am now staying with my mother-in-law and having her help take care of the baby. But we are sort of going through the same thing that a lot of people across the country are going through. And so we started to sort of really think about what is it that our partners and that the audiences we work with need right now that we can work on and give to them as as something that's particularly useful in this moment. And one of the things that Google is really well positioned to do is to advise a little bit on working remotely. So as I work for Google, my husband also works for Google, we are both here sitting, able to access all of the documents that we would have been able to access from the office. We're able to have interactive video meetings. We can share spreadsheets. We can present to these meetings. And it's just a way of life that we have been very used to up to this point. So I think that the learning curve was a little bit lower for us because we were using all of these collaborative Google products. We've been using them for years. So our content team said, okay, well, let's have a trainer office hours is something we do as part of the partner program, where we have one of our professional speakers will present on a topic of relevance to our partners. So we hosted that office hours in the middle of March with a focus on how to work remotely. And normally our office hours see between probably like 30 and 50 attendees. We have them every 2 weeks. That particular stream had 200 people tune in. So there was obviously appetite to learn more about how to use Google products effectively to work remotely. So based on the content that we presented to our partners in that office hours, we've developed a presentation, one for general learners and one specifically for small businesses, that focuses on remote work and how to use Google tools to collaborate, to work remotely, to manage your business remotely during these times of uncertainty. So there are two presentations now that are available to our partners that you are free once you're a member of the partner program to present to your communities, and you can present the the small business version or the general learner version, depending on who your audience is. So that's two net new pieces of content that were developed over the past, I guess it's been about 6 weeks or so, that we developed specifically in response to what is Google positioned to really help our the audiences that we work with at this time and the partners that we work with at this time. Another thing we've been focusing on a lot is presenting virtually. So the big sort of, like when you come down, there are a lot of things that we're trying to provide to our partners to help our partners do in the community. But one of the major things is host in-person workshops for learners in your communities, so that they can come, you can teach on a topic, and they can ask questions. And this has been how it's been positioned, since even before this program was a Grow with Google program. Prior to being Grow with Google, we were a small business focused program called Get Your Business Online. And prior to that, we were a program called Let's Put Our Cities on the Map. Some of you may be familiar with these other monikers. Now that we are Grow with Google, since 2011, we have been trying to get partner organizations to host in-person workshops featuring our content. Obviously, that was not going to fly in this day and age. So we had to make some internal pivots around, okay, well, what does it look like if our partners, even though your libraries are closed, you still wish to produce virtual content and host virtual events and workshops for your communities? And how do we need to edit our content to be applicable for virtual presentation? What do we need to make available digitally that was previously only available physically? And also, what are the sort of issues, pitfalls, presentation style considerations that our partners should take into account when they are pivoting from an in-person presentation workshop hosting model to a virtual workshop hosting model? So we've done a number of things around virtual workshops hosting. One is we hosted another trainer office hours about virtual hosting, talking a little bit about how to enter a virtual workshop into our partner community, and how to present virtually using a tool that was previously called Google Hangouts and has, as of yesterday, been rebranded to be called Meet. And how you can use Meet which is a similar platform to the one that we're meeting on today, but how to use that platform to present the materials that we have available in the partner community, which are all created using Google Slides, Google Docs, etc. We also used to have an option available for partners to order physical kits for their in-person workshops. We've now pivoted to having digital kits that partners can send out to their attendees that are workshop specific. So if a library is presenting on Google My Business, and the name of that presentation is now Get Your Local Business on Google Search and Maps. It used to be called Get Your Business Online. I think potentially, Chelsea, you mentioned that you had presented that version. So if you were presenting that topic, you could share a kit that has specific digital handouts relevant to that particular product. So remote work is one big thing we've been focusing on. Virtual workshops and presentations is another. And then there have just been everybody at Google has really been running at top speed since this situation has emerged, trying to figure out the ways to make our products as useful and helpful as possible in this time. So there have been resources that have come out from our EDU teams, resources from our small business marketing teams, resources from, the Google Hangouts team has made this pivot specifically at this time as a result of the increased usage of Google Hangouts, now Google Meet. So how do we get all of this information in one place for our partners? And how do we pick and choose the resources that are most relevant to our partners that are training these types of audiences? So within the partner community, we've created tabs on our resources page that are audience specific. So there's one tab for a small business audience, one tab for job seeker audience, one for student and educator audience that has a list of relevant resources from the different arms of Google. And sometimes they're merely linking to a blog post where a team will discuss, what they're doing in response to the COVID-19 situation, and where you can do things like apply for additional ad grants and stuff like that. But we collected it all in one place. And we also created a digital one-sheeter for our partners that says, if this is your audience, these are the resources that we think will be most useful for you. And in addition to that, we created a version of that that is specific to libraries, because there are some additional, as Nicky spoke about, the grants becoming available to apply for again. We have information on that in our one-sheeter for libraries, and so that's also available in the partner community. So that's another thing that we did, is that we know that there's a plethora of information out there. And we wanted to make sure that we put everything that we thought was relevant to our partners from the Google side in one place, because there's a lot of blog posts happening. There's a lot of one-sheeters coming out. Like, we wanted to make sure that everything was in one place. We also wanted to recognize that we are not the only ones who are sharing useful information right now. So one of the big audiences that we're focusing on at the current time is small businesses, because of how this situation is affecting small businesses overall. We have a tip sheet also available in the partner community that has some tips from organizations like SCORE, like America's Small Business Development Centers, Main Street America, the International Downtown Association, with their top tips for small businesses during the COVID-19 situation. And as I think it was Deena who mentioned, May is Small Business Month, and next week was intended to be National Small Business Week. So we are hosting what was always planned to be our National Small Business Week live stream, but we've pivoted the content to be focused specifically on the remote work and managing your business remotely content that I mentioned earlier. So that's happening on May 6th, so next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and it will focus specifically on
Uh-oh, I think Justine has frozen. So we do have some more information about that event that we will be able to share. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that information up. But in the meantime, so that we have enough time for questions from the audience, I'm gonna skip the next question and move into what's next for Grow with Google, and how do you see it fitting into library services in the long term? And that includes if you do see it continuing to fit. So I'm going to turn this question over to all of you. So how about we start with you, Nikki?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was just texting Justine.
Oh, okay. Then how about I go to Chelsea?
Yeah.
Sure. So I think it's going to become more of a cyclical thing for us. We've only been doing it really 2 seasons worth, I guess I would say, over the last year, but having it be, you know, a monthly topic at a minimum. So I just see it kind of becoming ingrained in what we do, and not even patrons questioning what it is. It's just, this is something we do. So it'll definitely stick around, at least for Bogota.
Great.
Yeah, I know. So I know that for my library, we've definitely promoted the upcoming Google event on our social media. As we're all trying to pivot virtually, I find myself thinking that the small business resources are so great to promote, and I feel like that community has a decent amount of digital literacy already. I find myself really concerned for job seekers right now, particularly knowing at our library how many people take those job seeking courses who really need a lot of hand holding in learning how to approach creating a Google email, creating any kind of email using these resources. And so as I think many of us in the public library field are now moving more virtually, like I know Vera had mentioned, Cherry Hill as well has started YouTube channels, really expanded our social media presence. I find myself thinking constantly about the people who aren't online right now, who aren't able to participate from their homes in these kind of classes. So I think when we are able to open back up to the public, when we are able to have computer classes again, it's such a great resource for our team because we offer so many classes to be able to have this as a resource. But I find myself now thinking as we move things virtually about all of the people that we're not reaching. So those are the people that are on the top of my mind right now.
Yeah, and I'm just going to piggyback off of that. So the job seeker program that we're doing today at 4, I'm looking over the presentation, and I know some of the people are not going to understand how to do data validation in Google Sheets. But the brilliant thing about these presentations is you can take the content and fit it to what you need. So that slide, it's out the door, because I know that's going to be 30 minutes trying to do that virtually. It's going to be way too difficult, but we can keep, you know, the basics of it and cater it to our needs. So yeah, but job seekers, I think virtually, that's going to be a difficult one.
Great. And Nikki, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're going to have to remind me of the question, though.
Oh, remind you of the question? Yes. What is next for Grow with Google, and how do you see it fitting into library services in the long term?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the heart of Grow with Google is economic opportunity, and libraries are always going to have, you know, obviously a role to play in that. And so I think as a program as a whole, you know, we were virtual, you know, to begin with, and offering a lot of resources virtually. So that will stay the same. But I think we are getting better and better at figuring out what communities need in order to access these virtual resources. Particularly, thank you for calling out who has access and what access means, which I think that word is changing. Our understanding of that word is changing right now with COVID, and you know, thinking about people who can't just go into the library to access computers, and what that looks like at home, and how we continue to get them the information that they're looking for. I think one thing I always tell my colleagues, if you want more thorough, detailed information or feedback on products than you ever thought possible, ask a librarian. Y'all give the most amazing feedback. So for me personally, I'll be continuing to think about how I can put Google's products in front of you all and get feedback on how we can continue to make it useful to your work. And I think that one of the first steps in that is working with some libraries to do a webinar on specifically, as you all keep mentioning over and over again, of it's what can we create, and it's it's Google's job to create products that are useful, but it's your all's job to figure out which are useful in which situations, and can best answer those questions from the community. So we'll be putting our heads together with ALA to figure out what kind of live stream or webinar we can do that's helpful to you to continue to share some resources with the community.
Excellent. And Justine, I see you're back. Do you have anything to mention about what's next with Grow with Google and libraries?
So we are focusing a lot more, as I mentioned, on virtual content. Within the next few weeks, you'll see an additional program that we'll be launching called Grow with Google on Air, which will be video lessons, live streams, and other content that will be available to the public. And that's launching, I think, the 11th of May. And what I advise is, if you guys join the partner program, those of you who aren't already partners, we will be sharing the information on this with all our partners so that you can be aware as these virtual training opportunities come up. And I really think that virtual is going to be a much bigger part of how Grow with Google functions in the future and how the world functions in the future, because we don't really know what the future holds.
Yes. And I think that that's a good place or a good thing to be thinking about now is when we do return to normal, whatever normal is, how do we prepare for the next thing? I think that this situation has brought up a lot of problem areas, or maybe things that have not been in disaster planning at all. So I think that even when people are returning to the office, we're still going to have all these questions about work from home policies and services, which technologies to use, how they're implemented. So I can see a lot of ways to expand all of this for libraries and for our partners to think about in the future. So. And now I want to make sure that I open it up to additional questions. We only have a minute left. So Naomi, was there anything in the chat that we may have missed?
So we have two. There's one question that says, is the Google event open to the public if we post the link?
So I think that this was in reference to the live stream happening next week. Yes, that g.co/grow/small biz live stream is open to the public. I think I saw another question in the chat about hosting your own registration link. We have a place within the registration for that live stream where we've asked if an individual has heard from a partner organization, and we're happy to let you know who tells us or how many people tell us that they heard about it from your organization. You can host or you can create your own registration site. You just have to share the YouTube link. You'd have to register yourself so that you get the notification of the YouTube link, which we won't have until the day before the live stream. Okay. Hopefully that made sense.
And then there was another one that states, you mentioned Google My Business. Can you give more examples of some of the training content?
Yes. So Google My Business is actually the presentation on it, which is currently called Get Your Local Business on Google Search and Maps. That's actually one of our top 3 presentation content, pieces of presentation content that is presented by partners. It is about a 30-minute presentation with 15 minutes of work time that will help small businesses claim their Google business listing. And you can get access to that in the partner community, as well as a digital handout that has a step-by-step guide for claiming the business listing. We also will have trainer office hours dedicated to that subject coming up if you want to learn more about it.
And I
Great.
think that was all.
Yeah, and if you just want to go to the next slide real quick so folks can see what the funding is about if they haven't applied in
Okay.
the past.
Yes, so, and I would recommend, if you didn't see the first round of Libraries Lead with Digital Skills announcements, you should sign up for the NJSL Direct if you're not already signed up. We definitely spread it that way. And when you fill out the evaluation form for this summit at the end, there will be a way to sign up for the NJLibsGrowBiz listserv, and that will be another way to get this information. But definitely stay connected to the New Jersey State Library and our social media and those newsletters, because that is how we make sure to share these opportunities. So we are at our time. So I want to thank Chelsea, Deena, Nikki, and Justine again for being with us. And we are excited to maybe circle back to you at a later time and find out what else has been going on with Grow with Google and how offering this virtually or in other ways in the future has gone as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for putting it together, Andrea.
Oh,
Yeah,
no
thank you,
problem.
Andrea.
Thank you. So we are going to take another break, and our next session begins at 2 p.m. Ginny Sturpka will be returning to offer a session on identifying entrepreneurial needs. Thank you.